Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and today, well, we have some figures to review. Man, I've been waiting for these two to be in stock, well, really anywhere, because they're only available in the UK when they first released, and, well, when they released in the US, they released, well, first on Walmart.com for a absurd $73. What kind of mentally insane price is that? So, unfortunately, I had to wait a while before they became available on basically until they became available on Amazon. They finally became available on Amazon, ordered it. Well, at least I ordered the Parasaurus. I was just going to get the Chilantaisaurus at a later date, but anyways, ordered the Parasaurus, and yeah, it was supposed to come like the 24th, I think, or 25th. Yeah, it was going to be a while. So I was just kind of waiting for it to go, but like, I don't know. Amazon was doing weird with actually sending the funds to actually have the thing shipped. It was weird, but anyways, I went to the store today, and yeah, they had both of these figures here. They didn't really have any of the other Wave 2 stuff. I didn't look too much. I really just saw these figures and immediately was like, yes. And, yeah, I picked these two up. So, yeah, today we're going to do the Chilantaisaurus. But next we will be reviewing the Parasaurus. We're saving the best for last. So, I'm just going to set the figure aside. Anyways, let's take a close look at the Chilantaisaurus. So, first we have the packaging. Chilantaisaurus, Jurassic Rebirth logo. Rebirth Spinosaurus, kind of ugly render. Kind of like tropical tree backgrounding. The trees just go all the way down to the ground. You can see the like barcode, the actual like action feature being shown off, which you can see has this chomping action feature, which we'll take a closer look at out of the box. This side Rebirth logo, this side more Rebirth logo, underside a little bit dented on this box, but oh well. Back you can see everything plus the superior figure of this wave, and that's really saying something since this is already an amazing figure. So yeah, you can see some like claw marks on the side of the packaging and everything. But yeah, that is pretty much it for the packaging. Just push this back, and let's actually get this thing out of the box. These are actually pretty simple to get out. All you got to do is just cut the wires. These are probably the easiest figures to get out of the packaging right after the danger packs. There's nothing holding their feet down or anything. Let's get that packaging out of here. Anyways, here's our Chilantaisaurus. Before I forget, let me actually show the scan code because realistically I will forget if I don't. Just hopefully make sure it's lit well. Apologize if the quality isn't the best. Okay, there we go. Got my camera to focus on it. So yeah, there's the scan code for the Chilantaisaurus. If you'd like to get this creature in your Jurassic Facts app. Anyways, let's actually take a closer look at the actual figure itself. Of which I'm getting really bad lighting of it. Like if I'm just trying to get my lighting well because honestly my lights are not the best at times. Like they work, but at the same time sometimes they just don't. So yeah, let me see if I can get my lights to just balance properly. Yeah, I think that's pretty good lighting. So yeah, here's the Chilantaisaurus. Let's start off the head, where actually the color scheme's a bit different than how I was expecting it to be. It actually has lighter gray stripes on the snout. I thought they were just like the black color all the way down to the end. But no, they are actually lighter gray at the a lighter purpley gray at the end. Then you go down, you can see some more black striping. Also, a lot of pretty fine detail. Probably not the most detailed figure from Mattel, but still a really good one. We still have the really nice rubber teeth. Nice glossy inside of the mouth with some decent texturing. Not the craziest. Honestly, this thing has a massive tongue. Like, takes up the entire bottom of this thing's mouth. But, yeah. We have these osteoderms kind of going down the back. Honestly, I don't know. Let me get my camera focused a little bit better. Yeah, anyways. Yeah. Like these nice osteoderm kind of scoot scales going down the back that lead into these spines. These rubbery spines on the back of the tail. No paint on the second half of the figure, though. I think this figure kind of pulls it off enough. Well enough that it's not that bad. The arms, you can see, actually really sharp claws. Actually really long and sharp claws. Almost like a Megaraptorid. Mattel, I know me and a lot of other people really want a Mape, but I'd also be cool to see like on a Roastion and some other ones. The thing with Mape, I want it to be a massive figure. Like a really big figure, almost like close to the Battle War Backward Spinax, I'd say, in size, or like the smaller T-Rex figures. I think that's how big I would want a Mape figure, so, and I don't think they would do that as of now, so I think first I'd want like an Roastion or something like that, but, yeah. Anyways, it has a nice red shade of red on the underside of its jaw. Again, no paint, like, after this little part of the white on its chest, there's no paint anywhere. The Jurassic World logo right there. Then we have the claws. Actually, some really sharp dew claws pointing out of the back. Nice small feet with scoots at the bottom. moving up the side of the thigh, has some larger scales. Generally, it's I've seen more detailed figures from Mattel, but that doesn't mean this one has bad detailing. It has really good detailing. Honestly, this figure would be cool to see if someone like did a repaint where they at least extended the white patterns and stuff going down the rest of the body and like underside, or if someone just did a complete repaint. Maybe even do like a reverse repaint where they do dark colors on the head, like make the whole thing dark and give it patterns and stuff. Anyways, for articulation, the legs move up, so we can stand up actually pretty high. I'd say up to about there until that's pretty much as high as it can go for both legs. The other leg can go back a little bit more, but the other one doesn't, so it doesn't really do anything. And then we can actually take the legs back down. It can go all the way down to about this far, so it can like actually sniff the ground as if it's actually tracking something. It's actually a little bit front heavy now that I'm looking at it. Anyways, the articulated arms go outwards, inwards, about that far. They actually go really far inwards so that the arms actually can touch each other. In fact, I'd actually say this figure has this figure actually does have very like rubbery arms. Like I think the end of the tail, the end of the tail is also very rubbery, but the arms are also really rubbery. Like you can just completely bend the claws and stuff. So yeah. Also forgot to mention, you can move the arms forwards and backwards. Though, it also can move, also when you do move it forwards, like the whole thing, I can see the head kind of bobbing up and down. It's kind of part of the action feature, but you still can articulate them pretty nicely. And then, of course, the neck can go up and down, though that's, again, tied to the action feature. And, and then also, of course, the upper and lower jaw articulate, which are also tied to the action feature. And then, of course, the tail, which also is tied to the action feature. So, yeah, we have it out here. You can see that the arms and head move up and down and forwards. Up and forwards at the same time. If you go down, they also move backwards. It's actually a pretty nice action feature. It's very similar to the Suka Minus, I think, from Chaos Theory, except I don't think the arms moved on that figure. I think you can also, like, move them out more. So it has, like, its arms all the way out or something like that. Or you can put them, like, really far forward like this. I wonder if you can go, how far forward you can put them, and it still works. Yeah, you can have it, like, raise its arms in the air. Kind of crazy if you like put the arms all the way out, which they can actually go out really far and have it like wanting to give you a hug or something. But if you want to do that, you can just have the arm just like completely go backwards. So it's a pretty fun action feature. I think it's pretty solid. Also nice that chilantaisaurus is a creature that actually fits in the size range, unlike the carcharodontosaurs they shove into the size range and make so small. This figure is pretty decent in size, though it is a bit smaller. On the smaller end, I'd say. Again, just has a really nice action feature, which we will compare to a human in a second so we can see how it works on like other figures and stuff. Let me just measure this figure. This figure measures in at about 14 inches long, and I'd say about 5.5 inches tall at the top of the hip, and at the top of the head, I'd say about 5.5 inches as well. I think that actually this point on the end of its tail would be the tallest point, which is a little bit over 6 inches. So, it's a pretty decent-sized figure, so some things to compare it to. I haven't gotten this guy out of the packaging yet, so you can kind of see it in the packaging. But here's it with the Parasaurus. It's actually a little bit shorter than it, I think, just ever so slightly. And even if we put it on the side, you can see the Chilantaisaurus is quite a bit bigger. You can see it. I'll compare it again with it in the Parasaurus review. So if you want to see the Chilantaisaurus compared to the Parasaurus, just wait for that video. Anyway, some other things to compare it to. The Jurassic World Velociraptor, which isn't too big compared to it. And then if we get a Mattel human figure, also not too big. I believe it is the correct size for Chilantaisaurus, though. Let me just check real fast. Okay, after checking, the Chilantaisaurus actually is a bit too small. Honestly, it probably should be a little bit closer to this height, really, and maybe like this length. Like this big. Chilantaisaurus is actually way bigger than I expected. I think it works in the size range, because at the very least they got the proportions right. And also, you could say this is like a sub-adult. I'd say it's still within reason, though, just very small individual. Unlike the carcharodontosaurs like Tyrannotidon, where this size range is significantly too small, and also the proportions look nothing like it. In fact, this, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Mattel released a, like, I don't know, like a Meraxes or something. It would probably look something like this, just because of how bad Mattel is at carcharodontosaurs, or at least not make them look like carcharodontosaurs and make them too small. So, anyways, Chilantaisaurus also didn't really live with anything, so I don't have any other creatures that it lived with to compare to. But again, just wanted to test the action feature out. It kind of chomps down. And the bite force isn't super strong. Also, the bite's very low, so definitely not the strongest biting action feature. But hey, you can get it to hold a human figure, though. I think the tail needed to be a smidge bit too long, because I think a smidge bit longer if it wanted to really balance with a human figure in its mouth, because it cannot do that. Though it can kind of shake it around. Definitely very fun, though. Next, let's compare it to another Rebirth figure, actually. The Utah Raptor, which, of course, Utah Raptor would have been a bit smaller and Chilantaisaurus would have been a bit bigger. So, yeah, they don't scale up perfectly, like, in real life-wise, but they're still really nice. Next, we have the Jurassic World Maiasaur. I kind of just wanted to bring this out. Maiasaur, I think, should also be a bit bigger, though. I think it works in the wild raw size range, nonetheless. Gonna have it chomp on its neck, kind of. Really cool. Anyways, next we have Orcaraptor, because actually I think Chilantaisaurus, let me check, I don't think it is a Megaraptorid. Yeah, no, I think, if I remember correctly, Chilantaisaurus, it's kind of questionable what part of the dinosaur family tree it belongs to. Though, from what I can find, it's actually very closely related to Megaraptorids. So that's why it does actually look very Megaraptorid-like. I don't know if we actually have any hand fossils for Chilantaisaurus itself. Yeah, just looking at it, I don't think we have any fossils from its hand. It actually may be a Megaraptorid, and if it is, then technically the first claw should be enlarged, and even if it's not, I think the first claw should have been enlarged instead of having the middle claw be the enlarged one. But, yeah, either way, honestly, if they did that, this could have just worked as a Megaraptorid nonetheless. Like, if you wanted to just use this as a Mape, even if, actually, now I'm thinking of it, kind of would be a good figure to make a Mape custom out of, but probably not going to do that. Anyways, here's with the Orcaraptor. Yeah, we got one good Megaraptorid, and then we got this couch potato looking thing. Yeah, Orcaraptor, I guess, pretty cool. And somehow this thing has a head that's almost the same size as a completely different size range. Yeah, the Orcaraptor's proportions are absolutely abysmal. They should be more closely to this, maybe even with a smaller head. Megaraptorids have pretty small heads for their body size compared. Quiet Orcaraptor. Anyways, yeah. Next, here's it with the Jurassic World Baryonyx, which outsizes with quite a bit. Next, here's it with the Jurassic World Indoraptor, which, if I can get the Indoraptor to stand, it's actually, I'd say it's pretty similar. The Indoraptor is a bit longer. It does have a slightly longer tail. But outside of that, I think it's about the same size as the Jurassic World Indoraptor, pretty much. Next, here is the Jurassic World Scorpius Rex. Which, this is about how big Chilantaisaurus probably should be, the Chilantaisaurus figure. And honestly, if Mattel makes a Mape, please make it in this scale. I know they don't usually do non-movie species in, like, the larger scales, but I really don't care. Imagine just having a large Mape figure. Maybe you could have, like, action feature. You could twist the tail and, like, the arms kind of swing side to side. Kind of like the Mr. Mutant figure. Anyways, yeah. Here's the here's it compared to the Chilantaisaurus. The Chilantaisaurus is actually very close in length. Actually, I think this figure might be shorter than the Indoraptor. I'm just realizing the Scorpius Rex figure. But, yeah. Have it kind of attack the Chilantaisaurus. Or whip it with its tail. So, yeah. And then probably the more important comparisons, I think I'm just going to use this one first, which is with the Jurassic World Styxosaurus. So, yeah. Okay, the thing with these figures is that the Chilantaisaurus and Purosaurus, actually, let me move these over here, are basically in a competition with the Chaos Theory figure to see who made the better gigantic tracker kind of size range figure. These are like probably the two best of like this size range that we've gotten, and it's kind of been a competition. I've been personally putting them up against each other to see which one's better. So yeah, here's like what you would expect to be the comparison. So like first thing, Suchomimus, I'd say is definitely taller than the Chilantaisaurus. And is it longer though? I'd say the Chilantaisaurus is a smidge bit longer though. So yeah, there's that. Then for their action features, Suchomimus just turns its head, chomps up, chomps down, and again, that's pretty much all it does, and just has articulated arms. Also, the only place it's missing paint is on the arms. Everything else from head to toe on this thing is covered in paint. On the other hand, this figure, chomping action feature, which is pretty much the same chomping action feature, with the added bonus of actually having arms that move with the action feature, which I would say is actually kind of nice. And with the fact that they can still pose, though. If they couldn't pose, that would be a big losing points. But a thing the Chilantaisaurus cannot do is really, like, turn its head and then chomp, really. Like, it kind of can if you want to go outwards, but you can't really chomp inwards. While the Suchomimus, on the other hand, you can turn the head and then have it kind of chomp inwards, though. Kind of hard to do, I guess. You really can't do it with either of them. But The chilantaisaurus only has paint on the arms, but everything else is unpainted. So when it comes to paint, I think the Suchomimus does better. But if we bring actually in the Styxosaurus, it's a way better comparison. This one also, the back limbs and tail are unpainted, so I guess it kind of lines up with the chilantaisaurus more, though. Still, Styxosaurus has more paint. So either or, when it comes to the paint, I'd say this wave wins. I'm not even comparing Parasaurus, but yeah, Parasaurus actually has pretty good paint, though I think it still has less intricate patterns. So they have better paint, and the action features, I say, are pretty tied, though I think these ones are better quality, in plastic at least, and also Parasaurus is perfection. So I think I actually have to give it to the Rebirth wave for doing better gigantic Thrasher figures. But yeah, they're still both absolutely amazing size ranges. And also Suchomimus is kind of bigger than it. Honestly, these are both just really good theropod figures. Honestly, I could also really see the let me just bring these out of here so we can focus back on the chilantaisaurus. Honestly, if you're just making like a dinosaur video based on a certain formation and they just have a very fragmentary, either unnamed or just a species that is very unnamed medium theropod is like the only remains of theropods, I feel like this figure just fills in really nice. If you just like need a random unnamed theropod, this chilantaisaurus works very well for that. Because I feel like it has very average proportions. Like, it doesn't quite have Megaraptorid proportions, but at the same time it has similar to Megaraptorid proportions. I think this is just a really nice, just simple, plain theropod. Again, the action feature is really good. Definitely would recommend picking up this figure. Also, the way better paint scheme. Honestly, the second wave of gigantic Thrashers are significantly better than the first wave. And the thing is, kind of happy for that, since the gigantic Thrashers are like the best figures of Wave 2. I think there are some other pretty solid ones in Wave 2, but most of Wave 2, I'd say it's somewhat kind of mediocre. While on the other hand, the gigantic Thrashers are magnificent. And honestly, I'd say on par, if not better, than a lot of the first wave figures. Don't get me wrong, I think they match, quality-wise, match up with the first wave of figures better than the second wave. I kind of feel like the first and second wave of gigantic Thrasher figures could have been swapped, and it would have lined up a little bit better, but yeah. Anyways, the Chilantaisaurus is great. I hope we get more. Honestly, can't wait for next year's like gigantic tracker kind of size range figures. Can't wait to see what species we get. I'm hoping for a Pliosaurus. I am begging for a Pliosaurus figure. That would be really fun. Plus, maybe we can get a herbivore that time, since we haven't gotten really many super good herbivores. Maybe like a Saurolophus or something could be pretty fun. But anyways, back to the Chilantaisaurus. For my final thoughts, this is just a great figure. Again, if you see it, I definitely recommend picking it. If you have to pick between this and Parasaurus, get Parasaurus. Like, it's Parasaurus. That thing's absolutely fantastic. But if you're picking between all the gigantic Thrasher figures and you want a dinosaur instead of a, and you don't, like, you already got Parasaurus, or you just don't want a prehistoric croc and instead want a dinosaur, this is definitely the one to go. Outside of Parasaurus, this is just, like, the best gigantic Thrasher figure we've gotten for Rebirth. Way better than, if it's between this and Tyrannititan, get this instead, because this actually resembles the species and is proper sized, while Tyrannititan is none of that. So, yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and goodbye.